I'm going to show you actually the first deal I ever did. This back in 1981 when I was 19 years old. And this is probably, it is my favorite no down deal too, but it has better fundamentals. And I'll explain why. And let's jump to my first property, which was 45030 North Trevor. It's a commercial industrial building I bought when I was 19 years old. This has been like 42 years. Take a look at this. I was 19 and I'd started a cabinet shop and I needed a place to rent. This is a 5,900 square foot industrial building. This was a big deal. You know, I was 19 years old and this is it over here on the left. And basically what I had is 2,400 square feet stucco in the front, 3,500 square feet of metal building in the back. Like I said, I was a cabinet maker. I'd been working out of another shop and I was living in it. And they said, hey, we're worried about you burning up in this thing. So I had to look for another place. I found this place and I got this place owner financed. So look, basically I have a property, 1981, interest rates are high considered by today's rates anyhow. 45030 Trevor, Lancaster, California, 5,900 square foot industrial building. This is a version of a nothing down creative financing deal. And I've done a lot of stuff like this. This is my favorite because it was my first, but it was also profitable. And the difference between my deal and Pace's is that A, I wasn't overpaying for it. I wasn't paying too much for it in order to get financing.
I bought this property for $100,000. The as-is value, what it was worth at the time, was probably maybe $80,000.
I got owner financing. Well, let's talk about how I got to what was essentially a zero down deal. I'm buying it for $110,000. I had to put a $500 deposit down, and then I had a $10,000 down payment. Now, here's the deal. $500 as out of pocket. That was on day one to get the property tied up. But the deal that I negotiated was $10,000 down, a $100,000 note that they would carry at 10% interest, which was the going rate at the time. It's actually a decent rate at the time. The payment would then be $1,000 per month. That just barely covered the interest, to be honest. And then I think I had a balloon due in about 5 or 10 years, which didn't matter because I was buying the property under market day one. So I have a 6-month escrow. Now this is the key that makes this a zero down deal. I got a 6-month escrow. Oh, great. You got 6 months to close it. Well, guess what? I got 6 months with right here, the right to occupy, the right to occupy. So the day they signed this contract, and what I did and what I pointed out to them is that there was graffiti on the building. There was graffiti on the building next to me. And I put the fear in the sellers and said, hey, look, we got the 6 months, we agree on all this, but I want access to the property so I can protect the property. I can keep vandals from putting more graffiti on it, possibly breaking in and doing damage to the building. And they were like, hey, that sounds great. So this right to occupy. Now remember, I told you the place before, I was living in it and I had my company out of it. This is a big building, okay? I mean, not big today's standards to me, but it was a big cabinet shop. It was big, really big for someone 19. 5,900 square feet. I immediately moved in, so I was no longer paying personal rent, which back then was, for me, was probably $500 a month. And then for the shop itself, another, I was renting a much smaller shop for I think $800. So right there's $1,300 a month that I'm saving. But I was able to rent out part of the building as well. I think I was getting $700 roughly a month from a couple other guys. But the bottom line is between that $700 and the $1,300 that I wasn't having to pay, I wasn't having to pay anybody. So I was rent free for 6 months. So basically I had $1,300 because I lived in this building. I didn't have to pay for a cabinet shop because this was the shop, but also I had space to spare to rent out. So I had basically $2,000 a month coming. And so in 6 months, I had $12,000 saved. I saved it because I didn't have to pay it out. I was collecting rent from one of the guys, and plus I just didn't have to pay it, so I saved it. So at the end of the 6 months, when I needed to come up with my $10,000, I had taken in $12,000 because 2,000 times 6, I got $12,000 on closing. That $12,000 took care of the $9,500 I needed to make up for my $500 deposit to make the $10,000 down. And then the other $2,000 I had left over, or 2,500 actually left over, to pay closing costs and that sort of thing. Basically, the day it closed, it was more than a nothing down deal because I'd already probably even made a little bit of money. But that was fantastic. In fact, the day I closed this deal, I went to pull the for sale sign out of the front, from the front of the building, and a guy stops by and he says, "Hey, what do they want for it?" He thought I was installing the sign. And I go, "No, I just bought it." He goes, "What'd you pay for it?" I go, "Paid 110. He goes, "Look," he goes, "I'll give you $20,000 more for it than you just paid for it." Just that day, one. And I knew it was a great deal already. But that confirmed it. Where Pace bought in fact, it's funny, they're both same price. Pace paid $110,000 for an $80,000 building. I paid $110,000 for a $130,000 building. And so the difference is, if things went south, if I got hurt or damaged and I couldn't do what I wanted to, my plans got interrupted, I would be able to sell this building for a profit. If it sat vacant, I could sell this property for a profit. In Pace's case, he had the concerns of a tenant that was already not paying, that could continue to not pay, that he'd have to throw out. He'd have to redo the property, paint it. In his deal, he could have gone from having to spend another $5,000 out of pocket just to get it rented in order to recoup the money he needed for the down payment. Where this one here, day one, I didn't even have to move in. I could have sold it for more. So that's what I'm saying. There's much easier ways to make money without having to take really unnecessary risks. And that's a big, big unnecessary risk. Learn how to make millions of dollars in real estate. I've made tens of millions over my lifetime, and I'm showing people how to do it. Get in my free webinar. I have it every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. Go to the link below, flipanythingusa.com/webinar. Sign up for it. You can talk to me face to face if you want. Don't waste any time. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. You don't want to miss my channel. I've been doing it for years.